This is the master bedroom. In the Victorian era, bedrooms were often referred to as the master's chamber. The term master bedroom evolved from this designation. It was located in the area of the house with the best view and was the best appointed. In country houses like the Paugh house, the master's chamber commanded the best view. The head of the house slept here. His wife may or may not have shared his bed in his bedroom. There was a belief among some that sharing a bed could spread illness. Also, because of the difference in status between men and women, wealthy families often slept in separate chambers, sometimes in adjoining rooms. Poor families, with small rooms or even one room, slept closely together in crowded conditions. Mid-Victorian rooms contained the necessary items for grooming, comfortable sleeping, chairs to read, a stove for heat, as well as a bed. Beds were usually wood in the 1850s, although cast iron and brass beds were starting to be used in wealthier homes. Stuffed mattresses were filled with horsehair, cotton, or even wool. Wealthy homes might have feather mattresses. This ceramic Victorian bedroom set contains a large pitcher and basin for washing and a chamber pot. The smaller items were probably a drinking water pitcher and a toothbrush holder and slop jar for wastewater. These are made of porcelain. Bed warmers like the one in this photo were essential household tools from the 16th through the early 20th century, before central heating became common. This one, a round metal pan with a long handle, was typically filled with hot coals or heated stones and slid between the sheets to warm the bed before someone climbed in. They were practical, but also a bit risky. Scorching sheets or inhaling fumes was a real concern, which is why some people switched to using hot sand or later, hot water bottles. This is the south side of the room. On the straight back bench is sitting a copy of the original ad that was published in the Ledger-Dispatch newspaper when the house was raffled off. I think I'll hang it over the bench. I think the bench was put together from a couple pieces of furniture. Most uncomfortable seat ever. My wife's family picture hangs on the wall, and the top of Victorian doll bed is by the wardrobe closet. Opening the closet door on the bottom right of the wall is a hatch that goes into the space between the outside wall of the house and the inside wall of the bedroom. These empty spaces were where we discovered some possessions left behind by previous owners. It also allows a peek at the construction of the house. In upstairs bedrooms, the plaster has been replaced by sheetrock, but you can see the lath where the plaster was previously keyed. This is the small bedroom, mostly furnished with items from the 1920s to the 1940s, with some exceptions. I think both the bed and dresser date to the early 20th century, roughly 1910 to 1930. The iron-framed bed, with its simple, vertical bars and rounded top rail, reflects styles popular in the Edwardian period and into the arts and crafts movement. This design moved away from ornate Victorian excess toward more utilitarian and honest craftsmanship. The vanity dressers also display modest, decorative detailing, leaning toward practical utility with a hint of elegance. This is also true of the chenille bedspread, floral prints, and lace. In the Victorian era and into the mid-20th century, women were expected to learn and perform needlework, both for their families and, sometimes, to earn a living. It was emphasized in school from the 1860s until the 1980s. In the 1850s, sewing was considered both a practical skill and a genteel accomplishment for women. Homes often had dedicated sewing areas or parlors, especially if the household employed a dressmaker or had women skilled in needlework. These rooms were used for plain work, mending and making everyday garments, and fancy work, embroidery, crochet, lacework. Dressed in them, you might find a mannequin or dress form for fitting garments, a sewing table or cabinet, often ornately crafted from mahogany or walnut, shelves or drawers for storing threads, patterns and notions, and comfortable seating for handwork or social sewing. These rooms weren't just functional. They were often cozy, decorative, and a reflection of the lady of the house's taste and skill. Some even doubled as family parlors where women gathered to sew and chat by lamplight. The invention of the sewing machine in the mid-19th century began to transform these spaces into more efficient workrooms. The little room behind the small bedroom would have made a nice sewing room for the lady of the house, and the sitting room for sewing with friends. We're currently using it for storage. Invented by Benjamin Franklin in 1742, the Franklin stove was designed to improve heating efficiency and reduce smoke compared to traditional open fireplaces. The basic design was used with some improvements until the 1950s. This bedroom, like the others, has spaces between the inner and outer walls. This space gives access to the attic over the house. The boards nailed onto the studs on the left side of this picture are used to climb up to the attic. There is a hatch behind the Franklin stove that creates an access to the space. So that wraps up the house tour. For those that would like to see the restoration of the house, I'll be doing that next. The house was for sale. This is the west side of the house in 2002. It convinced us to try and buy and restore it. To go from this back to this.